Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Tabitha Akro. Let's begin. In the heart of resistance, where silence roars louder than bullets, an empty street echo with the cries of a determined people, Ambazonian once again set a resounding message to the world. May 28th, lauded by La Republique du Cameroon as a day of unity, has become in Ambazonia a day edged with defiance, grief, and unyielding resolve. This year, the defiance was not whispered by thunder across every hill, plain, and city square of southern Cameroon. With an unbroken front and near total compliance, Ambazonians turned their backs on a celebration they do not recognize, locking down their towns, shuttering their shops, and staying home not out of fear, but in growing fierce action. What began as a symbolic boycott years ago has matured into a national tradition of resistance, observed not just in action, but in spirit. And as international observers took note, including the BBC, it became clear that this was not mere civil disobedience, it was a disciplined, collective act of national consciousness. No forced flag waving, no borrowed fanfare, no illusion of harmony. Only the raw, uncompromising truth of a people who have refused to forget their stolen past and who are determined to reclaim their future. This is not about a day off, it's about a stand. And on May 20th, Ambazonia stood still to move its course forward. Well, with this, we head on to the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. And these are the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. May 20th lockdown 100% successful, observed religiously, as BBC confirms. Tonight, to take a look at sexual assault on young people in Muea-Buea primary school sparks community outcry. Also, Ambazonian defense repels infiltration attempt in Ndop. Also, bomb blast rocks Colonial base in Tobin amid Ambazonian flag standoff. And on African scene, UK-Mauritius deal on the Kyrgyz Islands and its implications. Tanzania authorities detain Uganda human rights lawyer and Kenyan activist. And moving over to news across the globe, global spike in anti-Semitic and anti-Israel attacks follows Gaza war outbreak. Kim Jong-un slams worship launch failure as criminal act in rare public reprimand. Well, with this, we head on to the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. The 2025 May 20th lockdown in Ambazonia was marked by a powerful show of civil obedience, with over 90% compliance across the region. Observed from May 17 to 21st, the lockdown was a strategic rejection of La Republique du Cameroon's Unity Day, which Ambazonians view as a symbol of betrayal and forced assimilation. Now, the BBC reported deserted streets and shuttered businesses in Bamenda, confirming the population's commitment to the cause. Now, these calculated events highlight growing political consciousness, the demand for sovereignty, and the frustration over failed dialogue with the Cameroonian government. Now, so the 20th of May stands in stark contrast for the people of Ambazonia, not as a day of celebration, but as a solemn reminder of betrayal. It marks the date in 1972 when, under the regime of President Amadou Ahidjo, a controversial referendum dissolved the federal structure that once unified the Cameroons. Now, the result was the forced assimilation of southern Cameroons into La République du Cameroon, stripping Ambazonia of its autonomy, institutions, and identity. Now, this year, the boycott of May 20th was not only widespread, but profoundly symbolic. From the highlands of Fako to the valleys of Menchom, the plains of Ndop, the resilient strongholds of Bui, and the historic streets of Bamenda, over 90% compliance was recorded. Now, this overwhelming participation reflects more than obedience. It signifies a deep-rooted political consciousness and assertion of sovereignty. For the past 8 years, May 28th has evolved into a day of resistance. It is no longer viewed as a national celebration, but as an occasion for civil disobedience. Now, the date is ghosted in protest as Ambazonians reject the legitimacy of Cameroon's unity day and refuse to normalize what they regard as colonial occupations. Now, this year's boycott extended from May 17 to May 21st as declared by President Samuel Ikome Sako. During this 5-day shutdown, all schools and businesses were closed and public movement was halted across the territory. Now, in an interview with BBC, Paulinus Joel, an Ambazonian hostile from a prominent political family in Bamenda, confirmed the total observance of the lockdown. It has become a religion, he said. Now the people understand the cost, but they are willing to make the sacrifice. Losing a day of business means nothing when it's a matter of freedom. Now, when asked about the economic implications, Paulinus emphasized the population's unwavering commitment to the struggle. This is more than economics, it's about our lives and our future. Well, let's get an excerpt of the audio.
Say Cameroon has always been dominated by the Francophones, who've held power since independence. In Anglophone Cameroon, schools and businesses are shut every Monday as a protest. Well, this week, there was a full lockdown in places like the city of Bamenda, which lasted 4 days, up to and including Cameroon's National Day on Tuesday. To find out more, I spoke to Paulinus Joel. He's from a prominent Anglophone Cameroonian political family, was an MP for many years, and now runs a hotel in Bamenda. He told me that the lockdown in the city and the surrounding areas was very well observed.
It's like a religion now. You see, there's some of these things that you just need to get word, even rumor, that there's going to be a lockdown, and the people religiously respect it. It ended with the celebrations of the National Day, which was supposed to be a day of national unity. So the people said, no, we are not part of this. We're not part of this, so we're not going out.
What does it mean for someone like you who has a hotel business, I think? A lockdown, whether or not you agree with its objectives, it has an economic impact, does it not?
A very heavy one, very heavy one. Imagine locking your business up for 1 day, just 1 day, has a very, very heavy negative financial impact. But it's a sacrifice. Some people have paid even the sacrifice for this fight by their lives. So if you lose 1 day of business and you think that you are somebody who is attached to the fight, then to me, it doesn't mean much. It could have been worse. It has been worse with some other people. So we are all ready to make the sacrifice.
So if something like a lockdown is a signal, a message to the government in Yaoundé that people in the English-speaking regions are fed up, that perhaps they want their own country, do you think the government hears that message, sees that message?
I think the government does. The government definitely sees the message. It's just that they are very, very headstrong. And they feel that because they are government, they have a monopoly of force. But no, dialogue is the answer. Sit down and talk with these people. The international community has asked for dialogue. The civil society in Cameroon has asked for dialogue. The political parties in this country have asked for dialogue. the churches in this country have asked for dialogue. So sit down and talk with these people. That's the only way to solve this problem.
President Biya will probably say, we've had a national dialogue, we've talked, we've done what you want.
The national dialogue was most ineffective, was a sham. You're calling that national dialogue to discuss mainly problems of the Anglophone regions. And then you call people from all over the country. You call quarterheads from the north, you call people from people who knew nothing or who know very little about the Anglophone problem in this country. Such people cannot contribute to a solution.
Do you personally feel that there is a solution, that there is some way in which Anglophones and Francophones can live together in one country in Cameroon?
I think there is. You see, those are some of the things that our fathers worked for. Not just for me, I'm talking to you, might not know, but my father was Prime Minister of West Cameroon. So those are people who fought for reunification. At least the people who fought to let Cameroon Anglophone achieve its independence by joining our already independent brothers of East Cameroon. But there was a chance, there still is a chance for people to, at least Cameroon would have been that kind of precursor in African unity. At least the first country to get Anglophones and Francophones, two different countries, come together and form one country and try to achieve African unity. But no, this thing got derailed in 1972. Why? Because of greed. But I think there still is a chance. There still is a chance. We are no doubt, we are Africans, we are brothers. But we must sit down and talk.
Pauline Stewart there from a prominent Cameroonian political family, a former MP as well, speaking to us from the city of Bamenda. Well, let's get more.
Well, right there, the audio you just listened to, there was an interview with the BBC. Well, he criticized the Cameroonian government's reliance on force over dialogue, despite calls from the international community, civil society groups, and religious bodies for peaceful resolution. Apollonius described the so-called national dialogue organized by President Paul Biya as a sham, alleging that it included individuals unqualified to speak on behalf of Ambazonians and ultimately derailed any meaningful diplomatic engagement. Well, when asked whether Anglophones and Francophones could one day coexist peacefully, Paulinus responded with cautious optimism. He acknowledged that while unity is possible, the fight for recognition and true autonomy has been ongoing for decades. And if this had worked, Cameroon could have been a model for African unity, he said. But greed and betrayal got in the way. And this now, from a resolute boycott of May 20th, stands as a clear declaration from the Ambazonian people. They are reclaiming their narrative and their power by withdrawing from state-imposed commemorations that deny their identity and history. Well, while this factual, tonight, with me in the studio is our in-house analyst, Barrister Mbeseha, who will be giving us his thoughts and perspectives and reactions to this report. Barrister Mbeseha, good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So, well, this is a report covered by the British Broadcasting Corporation. What message do you think this has sent to the international community?
Well, I think the interview does two things. Are you getting me?
Yes.
Are you getting me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
I said the interview does two things. The interview reminds us, and Cameroon in particular, that what is going on in Ambazonia now is being noticed around the world. That is the BBC news guy. And to the best of my knowledge, the BBC is stated somewhere in UK, in Europe. And so the idea that we used to believe that what is going on is not being noticed around the world, it's not just true, it is the truth. But the interview also brings to notice a number of things. First, it is a reminder to Mr. Paul Biya that what he thought would end within 2 weeks has not ended. The war is ongoing. It's a reminder to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Jibril, who said Ambazonians are 2 cubes of sugar that will dissolve within minutes. They have not dissolved. They have not dissolved. They are still there. It is a reminder and a repetition of what Mr. Weber told Parliament in 1990, that until you address this issue, Cameroon will never be what it is supposed to be. It's a reminder to them that they will know Cameroon until there's Ambazonia. But above all, the interview reveals a number of things. Very short though, but it is very telling. It talks about the ghost town. Honorable Joa is not a civil servant. He's just a business person. The question was put to him, what is this? Does it harm the people? He says yes. But he concludes, it is a sacrifice which everybody should do. Because some people have suffered more. Some people have been killed. So to just lock in the store for 1, 2, 3, 4 days, it's a sacrifice worth doing. And then again he says, to the hearing of the whole world, what is the solution? He says dialogue. You have to sit down and talk with the people who matter. Going to invite people from Garawa, who have nothing to do with it, from Muea-Buea, from Betua. It's not a solution. You have to sit down and talk with the Ambazonians. Talk with the people who are affected directly, which is all we've been talking about. So this goes down, lockdown goes far. It has to repeat the message that's been repeated every day for the last 7, 8 years. It reminds again, Yaoundé, that this battle is not something that you end in 24 hours. It has not ended. The 2 cubes of sugar have not dissolved. The 2 weeks have long since passed, and Mr. Pobia must be realizing now that the Ambazonian issue is not a thing that you will defeat by use of arms. And so it is a very good interview. It is very, very informative. It is very, very concise, but it has a lot of meaning on the international scene, because it is not you and me who listen to BBC. Other people around the world listen to it. And so I can say kudos to the news agent, to the reporter who gave the interview. Again, the honorable being precise enough, but just the point, who wants to listen can listen. Over to you.
All right, Barrington Mbeseha, right here. The May 20th lockdown has been successfully observed. It was religiously observed. Now, it was a show of the people's defiance and growing dissatisfaction of La Republique du Cameroon. And as we've seen, it's been reported by BBC, and we believe the international community have seen this. Quite a lot of people have seen it. A lot of persons who have watched this have seen it. But then what are your expectations? What's your call to the international community at this critical time?
Well, what we know is that the international community is not just going to act because the BBC has run a program on it. Now, after such information goes out, this government has to go press the buttons. The international community is nothing. The word international community means nobody. But there are countries, there are organizations within the international community that are involved with this thing. Most importantly, this international community involves the UK. The BBC is a British team. The problem that we have today, that we are dying, was created by the UK as the administrators of the Trust Territory. They invented independence by joining. They told lies about Ambazonia. So what we expect is that we'll touch the buttons that are necessary. It was created by the United Nations, yes. The United Nations is not going to act just because the BBC has carried out an interview. Somebody has to talk to them. Somebody has to remind them that, well, this is a problem that you created. And this war is ongoing. It's not winnable until they go come to the conference table and discuss the issues honestly. And so that's what we expect. And we can only cite that interview as evidence when we contact somebody who will contact another country or an organization that something is going wrong somewhere that needs international attention. Over to you.
Issues that needs to be discussed. But right here, Paul Linus has condemned dictator Paul Biya's adamant stance in putting the right people for diplomatic talks, for dialogue. And these people are people who have no knowledge of the Ambazonian struggle and the truth of this just cause. Now, the international community, political parties, and our Ambazonian government have called for dialogue. What are the chances that the right people just again will be called at the table?
Well,
Over to you, Barrister Mbeseha.
well, what we have here is a problem. Our problem is not unique. There have been problems all over the world. And so the problems that we have, like any other problems in the world, depend upon the good faith of the international community. The cries we raise all the time, the deaths that are happening to us, require the international community, like other ones that have happened before us. Southern Sudan, East Timor, even the apartheid in South Africa, will call the world attention to it. They will act. Sometimes they will act, but sometimes they act late. They act very slowly. Our expectation all the time is that they should have acted yesterday. We know prolonged to 8 years. We expect them to act the first week, even the first day. But international community doesn't act like that. All liberation struggles, to the best of my knowledge, they last a long time, a very long time, 20 years, 30 years, even more. We don't expect ours to last that long because ours is peculiar. But will they act? They will. Are they going to act according to our calendar? Probably not. We will do something. But our cries are not going in vain. The international community is not a deaf people. They are countries. Those who hate those countries are human beings, like you and me. They have blood flowing in their veins. And so they would act. We expect them to act. How soon they will do it, I cannot sit here and tell you. But what I would tell Ambazonians is to be patient and to continue to fight. Because after all, if somebody told Yaoundé in 2017 that this thing was going to be like this, they would never believe. That's why they thought 2 weeks was too much. They'll wipe it out. If not, if you watch even different programs on Equinox and other networks, to speak right now, they were talking about it. They were arguing right a few minutes ago, asking what happened with the unification? What happened with the unity that they were celebrating just 2 days ago? And so it is up for debate. It's a political issue. Aware of that. When they will come to the table, I'm not sure of the date, but sooner than later, because it's also hurting them. Yes, it's hurting them economically. Their soldiers are all dying. They are dying, physical death. They are being killed as well. So it is not a golden walk in the desert, in the park for them. And so they will come. The international community is being awakened. They will come. They will meet us, whether they like it or not. They will meet us because Ambazonian problem is religion. It's a cause. You cannot fight a religion. You cannot fight a belief with arms. They will come sooner than later. Over to you.
To come sooner than later. Oh, that's a very powerful statement right there. But then, Barrister Mbeseha, the May 20th lockdown was successfully observed, religiously observed. Businesses were shut down, people were at their homes, schools were shut down, the streets were deserted. And don't you think this gives so much joy that the Ambazonian people could keep up to this routine, this period of lockdown consistently for this good 4 days? What do you think? How do you feel about it? To you, Barrister Mbeseha. Can you hear me? Oh, well, sorry about that. But then we'll move on to this report we're having. I believe Barrister Mbeseha will be able to join us as soon as possible. Now, just to take you a bit into an important report right here, we got this report that the UK has finalized a deal to transfer sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, and in decades of British control. Now, this move has been reported by British allies such as the United States and NATO, while Russia, China, and Iran have expressed opposition. Now, the agreement allows the UK and the US to retain a joint use of the strategic Diego Garcia military base for 99 years. So, can we have Barrister Mbeseha again? We need to get his thoughts and perspectives on this report. All right, well, we'll take this report then, moving over to this next report. In Ambazonia, a primary school teacher's morning devotion was ruined yesterday when a young pupil revealed she had been sexually assaulted by her cousin. Now, the child, who had been unusually quiet and seated while her classmates participated, caught the teacher's attention. Upon investigation, the teacher discovered blood on the floor, leading her to ask more questions and a disclosure from the young girl about her traumatic experiences. Yesterday, May 21st, at a primary school in Muea-Buea, a teacher noticed that one of her pupils was not participating in the morning devotions. While the rest of the class sang and danced, this child remained seated and quiet. Concerned, the teacher approached her and discovered blood on the floor beneath the bench. When the teacher asked the child to stand, it became clear that her uniform was stained with blood. Now, the teacher reassured her, saying she was there to help, and gently asked what had happened. Timidly, the young girl disclosed that she had been sexually assaulted by her cousin, who is currently in Form 2. Despite telling her aunt, the cousin's mom, who she lived with, about the assault on 2 different occasions, the child reported that no action had been taken to protect her. This was the 3rd time it was happening. Now, alarmed by this revelation, the teacher called for help from other staff members. They provided immediate care, cleaned the child, and rushed her to the hospital. Now, at the hospital, doctors examined her and confirmed injuries to her private parts, womb, and bladder, which had been damaged. They managed the heavy bleeding, but advised that she could return home. Just as she was about to leave the hospital, the child collapsed and her condition remains critical. Well, investigations are underway to hold the responsible party accountable. The local community is coming together to support the victim and also to demand justice. Authorities are also urging anyone with information to step forward. Do we still have Barrister Mbeseha here? All right. This is a disheartening situation right there, having to sexually assault a minor, and on several occasions this issue has been communicated to you and no action whatsoever has been taken. Well, moving over to another report. An improvised explosive device detonated at the Tobin Gendarmerie Station in Kumbo on May 20, 2025 during a confrontation between Cameroonian forces and Ambazonian fighters. Now, the explosion occurred as soldiers attempted to remove a flag hoisted by the Ambazonian State Army. Although the blast caused panic and minor injuries, no fatalities were recorded. The attack coincided with the May 20th region-wide lockdown observed by the Ambazonians. Well, colonial forces of La République du Cameroon narrowly escaped a deadly ambush in the Tobin area of Kumbo, located in the savannah zone of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Now, the incident occurred when an improvised explosive device detonated as soldiers approached the Tobin Gendarmerie Station to remove an Ambazonian flag raised by Ambazonians. According to local reports, the pro-independence Buea warriors, a unit of the Ambazonian State Army, planted the explosive device after successfully hoisting the Ambazonian flag inside the Gendarmerie compound. Now, the flag raising was a symbolic act of defiance against La République du Cameroon government's continued presence in the region. Alerted by colonial gendarmes, elements of the Cameroonian elite forces moved in to take down the flag. As they advanced, the improvised explosive device exploded. Although one soldier was reportedly affected by the shockwave, no fatalities were recorded. Now, the attack comes amid growing unrest surrounding May 20th, Cameroon's National Day, which Ambazonian government have long opposed. This year, President Dr. Samuel Sarko Ikome declared a total lockdown to prevent any celebration within the territory. Now, the blast in Tobin is seen as both an act of resistance and a stark reminder of the volatile security situation in the region. Now, this is an act of defiance by Ambazonians. The flag is indeed a show of their bravery and unity, but then it still reflects the intelligence of Ambazonian state army in putting up with the right tactics. Moving on, we have this report also in Ambazonia. In a decisive confrontation on May 19th, Ambazonian State Army effectively repelled an infiltration operation by a colonial gendarme unit in Ndop. The incident underscores the resistance and tactical precision of Ambazonia's defense mechanism and ongoing threats to its sovereignty. A colonial officer of La République du Cameroon, Adjutant Chef Dari, has been confirmed dead following a failed infiltration attempt into the ranks of the Ambazonian State Army in Ndop on May 19th. The officer was struck in the head during a counter-intelligence-led ambush by Ambazonian Defense Forces. Now, despite evacuation to Douala General Hospital, he succumbed to his injuries overnight. Now, with the death of Adjutant Chef Dari, the number of occupying forces eliminated since the onset of the war for Ambazonian liberation now stands at 1,751. Now, this growing tally is a stark reminder of the heavy price being paid by colonial forces as they persist in their illegitimate campaign. The incident reflects the strategic and intelligence prowess of President Dr. Samuel Ikome Sarko. However, it also sheds light on the grim realities faced by civilians caught in the crossfire. The conflict has led to widespread displacement, humanitarian crisis, and the disruption of everyday life across Ambazonian territories. This shows that the accomplices to these are being paid to carry out this heinous crime. With the death of this chef, Dari, others will definitely take caution. And as the Ambazonian State Army are even more tactical about their stance when it comes to defense. Well, with this, we'll be taking you through news across Africa. Tonight, the UK has finalized a deal to transfer sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, ending decades of British control. This move has been supported by British allies such as the United States and NATO, while Russia, China, and Iran have expressed opposition. The agreement allows the United Kingdom and the United States to retain joint use of the strategic Diego Garcia military base for 99 years. So what are the key points of the deal? Firstly, we have a sovereignty transfer. Mauritius gains full sovereignty over the Chagos Islands and in British control. Military base agreement. The United Kingdom and the United States retain joint use of Diego Garcia military base for 99 years. So what's the cost right here? The deal is expected to cost UK taxpayers billions, although the exact figure hasn't been confirmed. Now, what are the oppositions, possible oppositions? Critics argue that the deal undermines British sovereignty and burdens taxpayers, while supporters see it as a vital for defense and national security. Also, Prime Minister Keir Starmer emphasized the deal's importance for British defense and intelligence, stating it's absolutely vital for our defense and intelligence and therefore for the safety and security of the British people. Despite some opposition, the United Kingdom's government defends the agreement, citing its benefits for national security. Well, moving on, still on African scene, Tanzanian authorities detain Uganda human rights lawyer and Kenyan activist. Uganda human rights lawyer Agatha Atuare and Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi were detained by Tanzanian authorities while attending the trial of opposition leader Tundu Lissu in Dar es Salaam. Now, the duo's lawyers have filed an urgent habeas corpus application demanding their immediate production in court. Atuhari and Mwangi are being held by Tanzania's Immigration Department. Their lawyers, led by Jebra Kambol, have petitioned authorities to have them produced in court, citing extreme urgency and concern over their whereabouts and well-being. Meanwhile, Tanzania President Samia Suluhu Hassan has warned against foreign interference amid rising regional tensions. The government's actions have sparked widespread condemnation from civil society groups and regional human rights bodies. Kenyan activists, including Vocal Africa CEO Hussein Khalid, have expressed concern over the whereabouts and treatment of Mwangi and Atuhare, citing human rights violations. Now, the Kenyan government has expressed and pressed in Tanzania over Mwangi's detention, citing a breach of the Vienna Convention. Mwangi's wife, Njeri Mwangi, has demanded answers about his whereabouts, breaking down in tears during a protest in Nairobi after being forcibly deported. Mwangi was abandoned at the Horohoro-Lunga border and is now receiving medical treatment in Nairobi for allegedly torture sustained while in custody. Now, the Uganda government has written to Tanzania authorities requesting access to Atuhare, who is believed to be in custody at the Central Police Station in Dar es Salaam. Kenya's Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs has also urged the Tanzanian government to facilitate consular access to or release Mwangi, citing international law. Well, as the situation keeps unfolding, we'll be heading over to news across the globe. Tonight's global spike in anti-Semitic has caused attacks which follows on Gaza war outbreak. Now, 2 Israeli embassy staff were shot and killed on Wednesday in the United States Capitol by a lone gunman who reportedly chanted pro-Palestinian slogans, officials said. Now, the suspect is now in custody, but the attack is the latest in a disturbing global surge in anti-Semitic and anti-Israel violence since the outbreak of the Gaza war on October 7, 2023. The conflict began when Hamas-led militants launched a deadly surprise attack on Israel, prompting a full-scale military response in Gaza. Since then, Jewish communities and Israeli interests across the world have increasingly become targets of threats, vandalism, and deadly assault. Let's take a wave of the global incidents as they unfold. Now, from Europe to North America and Asia, incidents linked to the anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli sentiment have escalated. We see that in Berlin, Germany, October 18, 2023, 2 men hurled Molotov cocktails at a synagogue, prompting condemnation from German leaders. Also in Tokyo, Japan, in November 16, 2023, a man crashed his car into a barricade near the Israeli embassy, injuring a police officer in Warsaw, Poland. A teenager was arrested for throwing a flammable substance at a historic synagogue in Rouen, France. Police shot dead an Algerian man who set fire to a synagogue and threatened officers with a knife. Also in Florida, United States, in June 2024, a Jordanian national cost over $450,000 in damage to a solar facility over its passive ties to Israel. He was sentenced in May 2025 to 6 years in federal prison. Also in Munich, Germany, on September 5th, 2024, an Australian suspected Islamist gunman was killed in a shootout near the Israeli consulate in Brooklyn, New York. A Pakistani man was arrested for allegedly planning a mass shooting at a Jewish center in support of Islamic State. In Sweden, a shooting occurred near a facility affiliated with Israel Defense from Elbit Systems. Also in the United States, in Chicago, 2 Jewish students were attacked during a pro-Israel demonstration at DePaul University. In Australia, 2 incidents occurred. A former Jewish leader's home was vandalized and cars torched, followed days later by an arson attack on a child care center defaced with anti-Semitic graffiti. Now, the rise in violence is reflected in recent data. In the United States, the Anti-Defamation League documented 8,873 anti-Semitic incidents in 2023, a 140% increase from the previous year and the highest recorded since the group began tracking in 1979. That number climbed to 9,354 in 2024, with assaults accounting for nearly 200 of those incidents. Also in France, anti-Semitic acts skyrocketed from 436 in 2022 to 1,676 in 2023. The trend continued into 2024 with 1,570 acts recorded. Australia saw one of the steepest rises. Anti-Semitic incidents between October 2023 and September 2024 jumped 316% compared to the prior year, reaching 2,062 cases, according to the Executive Council of Australian Jury. Now, Jewish advocacy groups and governments alike are raising alarms about the scope and coordination of attacks targeting Jewish individuals, institutions, and Israeli-linked entities. Now, the normalization of violence against Jews under the guise of political protest is deeply dangerous, said an ADL spokesperson. What we are seeing is not just a reaction to geopolitical conflict. It is a global hate surge. As tensions continue in the Middle East, security experts warn that diaspora communities and Israeli-linked infrastructure could remain high-risk targets, prompting increased surveillance and protective measures around synagogues, embassies, and cultural centers worldwide. Also tonight, Kim Jong-un slams worship launch failure as criminal act in rare public reprimand. North Korea's supreme leader Kim Jong-un has condemned the failed launch of a new 5,000-ton warship as a criminal act and a national embarrassment, demanding immediate restoration ahead of a key political meeting. A major accident occurred on Wednesday during the side launch of the vessel at the northeastern port of Zhongchen. State media KCNA reported that Kim, who personally attended the event, called the mishap a serious accident and lambasted it as the result of absolute carelessness, irresponsibility, and unscientific empirism. According to KCNA, sections of the ship's bottom were crushed after the vessel lost balance during the launch, a maneuver deemed risky given the ship's size and North Korea's limited naval engineering capacity. Now, the report did not mention any casualties. Military analysts said the side launch technique rarely used by North Korea may have been chosen due to inadequate shipyard infrastructure, including the lack of dry docks or launch ramps. They noted that such a method is basic and cost-effective but highly risky for large warships. Now, the fact that this kind of accident occurred and became public would be deeply humiliating for North Korea, said Yang Wang, a military expert at the Asan Institute for Policy Studies. Now, adding to the embarrassment, the incident likely unfolded before a large crowd, magnifying its political implications. South Korea's military later confirmed the ship was lying on its side in the water around the same time. North Korea launched multiple cruise missiles from an area near the port, though it remains unclear whether the actions were related. Kim reportedly ordered that the warship be fully restored before the ruling party meeting scheduled for June, saying the issue was not just practical but a political issue directly related to the authority of the state. Now, this rare public disclosure follows the recent launch of a similar-sized destroyer in April at the West Coast Namfo shipyard, also attended by Kim. Analysts also say that these 5,000-ton destroyers are the largest warships North Korea has ever attempted to build, forming part of a broader push to upgrade its naval capabilities with missile-equipped vessels. Now, satellite imagery reviewed by United States-based monitoring group 38 North prior to the accident showed the ship on the quay with support vessels nearby and export missile tube magazines. North Korea has previously turned public accidents such as satellite launch failure or a building collapse into propaganda opportunities by showcasing the regime's corrective leadership. Whether this naval mishap will follow the same pattern remains to be seen. Well, and with that, we've come to the end of Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. But before we go, a recap of the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. Well, tonight we took a look at May 20th lockdown 100% successful, observed religiously as BBC confirms. Also, sexual assault on young people in Muea-Buea Primary School sparks community outcry. Bomb blast rocks Colonial base in Tobin amid Ambazonian flag standoff. Also, Ambazonian defense repels infiltration attempts in Ndop. And on African scene, UK-Mauritius deal on the Chagos Islands and its implications. Tanzanian authorities detain Uganda human rights lawyer and Kenyan activists. Also, and in the rest of the news across the globe, global spike in anti-Semitic and anti-Israel attacks follows Gaza war outbreak. Also tonight, we took a look at Kim Jong-un slams warship launch failure as criminal acts in rare political reprimand. And that is all on Undaunted tonight, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted newsroom, we say thank you for joining. And to Barrister Mbeseha, we had some technical issues. Our sincerest apologies to that. Well, this is where we come to the end of tonight's Undaunted. We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.